Blake talks us through Copperajah VMAX for our latest deck profile for Rebel Clash.
Welcome back everybody to more from the Stabilize. I'm Blake and today I'll be bringing you my LucaMetal and Copperajah VMAX deck that we featured on the channel yesterday. We took a good win against Phalanx V and Phalanx. I think that deck will actually be really strong as well going forward, but I think just not being able to make much of its damage output is what got it in the end. But that's what this deck really tries to do, try and make your opponent's attacks ineffective with all the damage reduction in the deck and the large HP pools on our Pokemon. But this is the list that I ran in the video. This is what I'm going to take you through today. We played 2 copies of LucaMetal Tag Team GX, 260 HP, relatively low for a tag team in this day and age. But with Frying Pan and the GX attack, we're not too fussed about that. The GX attack, Full Metal Wall GX, for one colorless, allows us to reduce damage taken by our metal type Pokemon by 30 for the rest of the game, which is insane. It's probably one of the best GX attacks for considering how much it costs. If it weren't for Ultra Creation, I'd say it would be the most cost effective broken GX attack in the game, but it's still pretty close second, I reckon. And if you attach an extra energy to this Pokemon when you declare the GX attack, you also get to discard all energy attached to your opponent's active Pokemon, which can be pretty clutch if you didn't use the GX attack early in the game. And it can also set your opponent behind. Say if you were even playing against ADP, if they start at ADP and they're attached to the active, you go first, you attach, they attach, and then you attach your second energy and GX before them, and then they lose their attachment, so they're set 2 turns behind now, which is really strong. That's just the one cherry pick scenario where it could be really strong, but trust me, it'll come up in a lot of games if you manage to get that 2 energy GX attack. That's mainly what we're using the tag team for. What we're really going to be attacking with is our Copperajah VMAX line. We play 3 of the Copperajah, which really isn't much of note. It's got 220 HP and a couple of serviceable attacks, but the VMAX has 340 HP and 2 very good attacks. You can get up to effective 400 HP with the damage reduction from Frying Pan and Full Metal Wall at once, but as you take more damage, you get more effective HP. So if they have to 3-hit this Pokemon, suddenly you go up to like effective 460 HP on Copperajah, because you add another 60 each time they have to swing into it. So that's insane. This is a tanky boy. We play healing cards so that we can get more effectiveness out of the damage reduction abilities as well, and its attacks are nothing to be laughed at. For 2 metal and a colorless, this attack does 100 plus 100 more if your opponent's active is a basic Pokemon, which in this format is very strong. With the addition of Galarian Berserker, you can get that number up to 220, which is a pretty sweet little number. Allows you to cherry pick those Zacians without having to attach 4 energy if they don't have their own Frying Pan attached, but in case they do, we have a 4 energy attack. It does 200. It's just a vanilla, and it does 240 with no downside and no particular upside. But that's pretty strong. Just being able to churn out 240 to 260 damage, whether or not you have the Berserker out each turn, is really impressive for a Pokemon that boasts as much HP and resistance as this VMAX does. But moving on, we also play some stuff to help set up our attackers because it's expensive. So we play 2 copies of the new Duraludon from Rebel Clash. For one colorless, Metal Sharpener does 30 damage and attaches a metal from your discard to one of your bench Pokemon. This card is almost an exact copy of the baby Yveltal from XY. You've got the exact copy of Oblivion Wing, and it's a second attack for 2 metal and a colorless instead of 2 dark and a colorless. Does 110 instead of 100. So it's ever so slightly power creeped Baby Yveltal, but Baby Yveltal is a really strong card, and I expect this to be really good in most metal decks that need a little bit of help accelerating energy. But we do have a Metal Saucer in the format, so it doesn't need too much help, so we only play 2 of them for really niche scenarios. But with all the resistance in this deck, this Pokemon can take a couple hits on a 1 prize attacker, getting up to like effective 190 HP like we talked about before with Frying Pan and the Lucario Melmetal GX attack. So a really nice little card to help out in this deck. We also play the new Galarian Meowth, which is exceptional at with its new ability. It means you don't have to play a bunch of Evo Essences and stuff like, or Pokecoms or anything like that. You can use its ability to discard 2 cards from your hand and then search your deck for a Galarian Berserker, and that's really strong. As soon as you bench the Meowth, eventually, as soon as you choose to discard 2 cards, you can go grab that Berserker if it is in the deck. So really nice addition for consistency in these steel type decks that would like to use Berserker if they need the damage boost. So yeah, really strong. And lastly, we play a single copy of Zacian V, just to help us with consistency on our first turns. They can be pretty weak. Our first turns usually look along the lines of like playing a Tag Call, a Quick Ball, and then hopefully getting one of our capture energies in our opening hands, so that we can go grab another basic, and then hopefully we can end the turn with an Intrepid Sword and boost up our hands for the next turn. Not really looking to attack so much with Zacian V in this deck, because it's not as tanky as the VMAX, but it is, as you all know, it's still a very impressive attacker if that is the route you do decide to go for. But I really wanted to show off the Copperajah VMAX, so I opted not to go with it as an attacking option during the video, because it would have worked really well on some occasions, but this video is not about Zacian. Zacian has plenty of time in the limelight. But we'll move on to our supporters now. We have 4 copies of Cynthia. This is our main supporter in this deck. We have a couple of tag team supporters as well, alongside other stuff. But we have also supplement the 4 Cynthias, which are a really nice shuffle draw, with 2 copies of Marnie. A little bit of disruption. This deck, once it gets going, doesn't really need many cards, just needs to get a manual attachment every turn really to keep going, and occasionally draw into one of our tag team supporters. So we play a suite of tag team supporters. We play 2 Guzmahala for the early turn so that we can get either our capture energy or our weak guard energy that we play one of, and we can also get Chaotic Swell and those juicy metal frying pans so that we can successfully avoid weakness from opposing fire types, but also get that 30 damage reduction as well. We play 2 copies of Mallow and Lana so that we can heal our really tanky gentlemen with big noses, and also provide some good switching options because a lot of the Pokemon in this deck are particularly heavy. And we also play a copy of Cynthia and Caitlyn so that Tag Cool can get us that draw power if we need it. And we also play 2 copies of Boss's Orders so that we can gust up any Pokemon that we like and take big knockouts on them, like bench sitting Vs that were previously too hard to get. And in decks like this where you play a lot of techie type cards, it was too hard to fit 4 custom catches in it and have the deck still work properly as well. But that does it for our supporters. We'll move on to our staples for the deck. We have 4 Quick Ball. Forgive the glare. Quick Ball is just the best ball search in the deck unless you are a specific type that calls for a different one. This deck does not, so we have the 4 Quick Ball to service that. We also have 4 Metal Saucer, which the Quick Balls can discard metal energies to activate, which is really strong. And we also play 4 copies of Switch, like I talked about earlier. A lot of the Pokemon in our deck are particularly heavy with large retreat costs, so we play 4 Switch to make sure that we don't get stuck in the active with a Pokemon we don't want there. We also play 3 copies of Tag Cool, so that we can search out our tag teams in Lucario, Melmetal, and the suite of supporters that we have. Tag Cool is just really strong in this deck. We play, for tools, we play 3 copies of Metal Frying Pan. The Pokemon in our deck are largely too heavy for Escape Board or, I was about to say Floatstone, Air Balloon to be able to have give free retreat to, so just the Frying Pans here. With Tool Scrapper in the format, we want to play an extra one, so we play 3 instead of the 2 that maybe you would have seen in the past. Now you have to be a bit more conservative with how you attach these as well, because yeah, like I mentioned, Tool Scrapper is now a problem for those cards. And then for our stadiums, we play 2 Chaotic Swells that we can search out with LucaMetal to prevent our opponents from getting bonuses out of them really early on in the game. And then we have a couple one-offs. We have 1 Reset Stamp, 1 Tool Scrapper. Like we mentioned, there's a lot of good tools out at the moment, and Tool Scrapper is just nice to have as a one-of in any deck so that you can give yourself a chance to clear those pesky tools. And we play just 1 Evo Essence to give us an extra out to Copperajah VMAX. And that does it for our trainers. Now we have our energy cards. Lastly, we have 2 copies of Capture Energy. This is a nice little boost to early game consistency so that we can search our basics without the use of Quick Ball or Tag Cool. It just gives us another out. It also means that Pokemon Search is now accessible with LucaMetal, which is really strong. Use LucaMetal to grab this special energy, and then it also grabs a basic for you and provides colorless. So it serves a lot of purposes in this deck. A really effective new special energy coming out of Rebel Clash. We play 1 of the old-fashioned weakness guard so that if we have an important Pokemon, we can slap a weak guard energy on it, as well as the Frying Pan, and then hopefully those pesky fire type decks won't be able to one-shot us with a Flare Strike or something along those lines. And then for our basic energy, we play 3, 6, 9 metals, so that we have enough to fuel our metal sources, our metal sharpeners from our Duraludons, our Intrepid Swords, and just so they're accessible for us to draw with early on in the game. But that is the list that we ran with on the channel, so that's just the baseline. I'm not sure about the supporter line. I think if that could be tinkered with a little bit, maybe try some researchers or something like that, but I was having a lot of success with the Cynthia and Marnie build. Could maybe go up to 3 Boss's Orders if you find yourself using that a lot, but this is more of a defensive deck, so you could even play cards like Hyper Potion or maybe another Mallow and Lana, just to boost the amount of healing in the deck. That would be really nice. But that is the list. If you've just joined me from the start of the video and you skipped to it, this is the list. Hopefully you'll enjoy it. I've been Blake as always, and I'll hand you back over to Mitch.
Thank you very much, Blake. Looks like a very strong deck, and having a huge HP total like that is something that I'm really excited about. If you like the deck and want to see more, then consider subscribing. Click the button. It's just here to do that. Over here we have some videos that YouTube thinks you'll like, as well as a playlist down the bottom for more content similar to this. If you like and want to see more, you can also follow us on Facebook and Twitter at @thesabilize_YT. And apart from that, yeah, we'll see you all next time for more from the Stabilize. Bye.